All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Gosh, the crowd's growing. Thanks for coming back from going shopping or whatever you're doing. That's one thing I noticed about Singapore. It's a giant mall. Anyway, I probably should have coordinated a little bit better with your new president of the chapter, but I'm going to go back into something about IEEE and how these competitions and a series of things come along for your career, and why it matters and what you can do with it. That's actually the more important thing. But if you're going to be in this business, how can we make this a better community and help your career? And we're set up to do that. So the competitions, right? I'm going to go off with the competition. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So, and what I mean by this is you guys had some difficulties this weekend and so forth. Some of you had some heating problems. I know I talked to you and gave you some answers about that and whatnot. Came up with new ideas, stability issues, and that kind of thing. But you got through some issues, and now you're better. And the next time you come back, you'll be better yet. I also changed a very common thing about necessity is the mother of all invention. I'm going to say competition is. But anyway, so think of this, even though you may have had some tough times here, or qualifying or competing or whatever, this is just the first step, and this is the loop we all went through. So don't get down on yourself. It's how it is. I think every one of those old guys went through some tough days. The other thing this is this is a great way to get your career going. So this is about systems engineering, some things you don't always get at school, and you actually get to communicate with people you don't normally get to. You've got all the guys in the green shirts. You all talk to each other every day, but the guys in the white shirts you don't get to see very often, or the black shirts back there, or whatever. So now you get a chance to connect and get ideas. I know one of the teams I talked to was talking to the Russian team, and they found out that the little thing that goes on top of their vehicle was to get around the very problem they were having for their compass, to get it away from the power source. So they're getting ideas and exchanging and whatnot, and that's starting to make you think a little bit bigger and broader. So that's excellent. The other thing is I hope you're making friends here, because the people around you are the people you're going to see the rest of your life. You're going to run into them in conferences and other activities as you have a career move on. So you want to do that. And it's also a safe place to talk geek, right? We're all sort of technical people. Go home, try and talk to your mom or your sister or something. And they're like, I don't get it, whatever. Yeah, it sounds all good to me, go away. The other thing is, competitions give you is a place to have a very contained space. So I call it black and white, right? You know if you made the under the gate, for example. What you don't have, that you do have in a job, is the other things that are ongoing around you in terms of looking to make a project happen on time, controlling a budget, the politics of a job. I mean, you've got things that happen at a university or at a company where there's different pressures that are on your mind when you're still trying to become a young engineer. So this is a place where you get to put your hands on and do things and learn things in a safe environment where you don't have to worry about those other aspects. So it's a very nice place to sharpen your skills, and then when you go into the field as a real engineer, you're pretty solid. You know your stuff, and now you can deal with the other aspects. So the other thing is you're here with like-minded people in a team, but you actually identify yourself out. So you're part of a bigger group. You have a team concept, but you also get some identity out of this. So if I walked up to one of the teams and I said, "What's your role?" I'm the software guy. And you're part of this big pond of fish, right? But I'm doing the controls. I'm doing the sensor electronics. I'm the data guy. I know some of the teams even have a manager who goes out and gets money. So that's how you're defining yourself as a technical person in your career, but you're part of the bigger group. And these two things are important, right? That one, you're an individual, and two, you know how to work in a group. So that's very, very important. And competition does that for you. And by the way, you're going to use this in your resumes and so forth. Put something down here. Actually, just reminded of a scientist who's actually got part of a Nobel Prize, believe it or not. He was worried about saying something. So he reminded him that if you did it, it's not bragging on it. So if you guys did this and you won this competition, or you came in second place, or whatever you did, you showed up for it. Right? Other people didn't do that. Put that in your resume. You took a step that other people weren't brave enough to do. Don't forget that. The other thing that competitions do, right, is this where you get to shine. So If you win, right, there's all kinds of things. I think I'm giving out money tonight, I hope. So, but there's other things beyond that, right? There's all kinds of recognition that comes with this. There's awards. We didn't have posters this year, but some of the other competitions that we do, we have poster competitions at Ocean's meetings and workshops and stuff. And you get recognition for this as a student. And those are things that matter in your career, right? You did something, again, that somebody else didn't step up and do. So I'd like to make sure you guys take advantage of that. And that's what these kinds of meetings and competitions and OES are here for this young part of your career. But after you've done this, you're going to move on. Now, how many of you are planning on going on to industry right away or want an advanced degree? The advanced degree, put your hand. Really? That's unusual. That's not very many. How many have the advanced degree already? I would encourage you all to get an advanced degree, particularly if you're going down the technical route. I would say, with my students at Santa Clara, I try not to let anybody stop until they've got a master's at a minimum. It's a PhD, unless you're going the academic route, maybe it's not quite as hard, but if you don't have a master's, it's going to hold your career back, so that's my advice. You really want to take that extra degree. Why is this thing echoing now? Anyway, the workshops and symposiums, I'm defining them here because there's always an argument about what they are. Workshops tend to be a meeting where it's a very specific topic and it's very small, and the interchanges are such that everybody involved is expected to contribute. So if we had a workshop here between scientists and you guys, you'd be expected to speak up and say something. Okay? Symposiums are usually single-track meetings on a tightly grouped set of problems. So AUV issues like this heterogeneous swarming, right? That would be an entire workshop. But somebody might talk about the aerial vehicles, somebody might talk about the surface vehicles, and then the subsurface, and then there might be another section about how they all integrate, or something like that. So that would be more of a symposium thing. That's one where but the thing about these is, and some people use conferences, by the way, interchangeably, but I'll define that later. But the main thing in these things is this is where you actually start to build your career, even more than here. Here is where you start to meet all the people you're going to work with in the future and maybe have connections with as you build your network. These are the places where you start to run into people that are already in the business, and you start to sit down with them and create links across the age boundary. So this is where Herald and Venu and me and Tom and Hadiato are people that you'll sit down with and start to have intellectual exchanges with and say, this is what I'm doing, working on. This is the problem I'm having. I want to get involved in something else. And so this is a great place to have those focused conversations. And that's the kind of thing that the societies give you. You don't get that if you don't have that community involvement. Certainly no company's going to do it for you. They're going to want you, if you work at GE, they don't want you working for Ford. So this is where you have those moments to get those new ideas. I just had a conversation with Amy this morning about some ideas. And some of the students talked to me over a few days here. So this is where that happens. And I'm sorry I put old people up here, but we're not really that bad. But it's ringing my ears up here. There's something weird with it. You can't hear it back there?
Come forward. There's a bunch of seats empty. Why don't you come forward?
Yeah, it might be better because it's ringing up here. Its feedback is bad. So I really encourage you to start getting involved in these. You guys are now seniors or going into your year of things. This is where you get to stand up and talk, right? Show your work. So that young lady right there won the poster competition in Tokyo. Got some money for it, got an award, got invited to do some other things, got to stand there and tell her story about what she's doing. So, and she's you. She's not, I think, well, now she's 2 years older than you, but not much older. So, but this is where she started. So this is your opportunity in these places to get yourself noted and make those links and connections for your next phase in your career. And you'll see Tom and I are paying very great attention to her. other thing about these is peer-reviewed papers. You're going to get a lot of opportunities to do posters and papers and then peer-reviewed papers. And you really should consider getting into the publication side of things too and building up your resume. It's a very, very important part of a career. And even in industry, knowing, having your people in the community take your work and grade it, essentially, and say this is good stuff, right? Then you get citations and things like that as it gets put into the publication system. Those are things that make you stand out from everybody else. So you want to really seriously consider doing that. That's how I'm here, right? I don't know how to explain it any other way. O&R just gave me some money, but if I didn't have those things, they wouldn't do that. So you've got to really think about this path and use us as your pathway, because I actually want you to take over my job, by the way. The next thing is these meetings give you this connection to specific individuals, right? So you can look out and find the person who's doing the thing that you're doing, that you're interested in. If that's ship's propulsion, or if that's AUVs, or the surface buoys, swarming, deep sea instruments. This is the place you get that, and you can make those links and connect with people and put them in your network. You're not going to get it anywhere else. This peer-reviewed publishing thing and whatnot, there's other ways to publish, by the way, that aren't peer-reviewed. They just do an extended abstract. So it's much easier. It's a great way to sort of break into the thing, publication, and step it up in steps so you're not punished. You're not going through the hard steps. Peer reviews can be a pretty hard process, but there's half steps you can take to make it work. I said about speaking and so forth. And then for those of you who are really serious about it, the symposiums frequently produce a special journal edition. So the one in Tokyo, that will be coming out pretty shortly here. So we selected 10 papers that were better, let's say, or looked good, and asked them to add some more material, fill it out, and then we published a special edition for them. So, and they're all students. So they're people like your age. So they're going to get a really nice publication out of it. I'll put this up here. Later this year in Portugal, we have the AUV symposium. It's done every 2 years, so 2016 was Tokyo. This year will be in Portugal. So those of you who are really interested in it, there's a student poster competition. They give you money for travel, and then if you win the competition, you get more money. So, but you also get to meet people who are right at the cutting edge of the field today. Especially, this will have a lot of Europeans in it. So if you're from Asia and you want to see what the guys in Spain, Portugal, Britain, France are doing, this is where you meet them. Okay. Now I told you about conferences. So conferences are different. They tend to be a much more general meeting over several days with a lot of topics. And the reason for this is how you connect to the broader community instead of just AUVs or robotics. This is where you learn about your customer base. So you build robots like AUVs, but what are you going to do with them? Mine are done for science. So like Tom had talked about earlier, mapping systems. If you go to the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute site and you look up Dorado mapping, you'll see a big vehicle that I was in charge of and built. And then you can look at the data that came out of it. That's what it was for. Ultimately, these machines are for a purpose. They tend to entertain the engineers. We like them. But really what comes out of them is what the customer base wants, the data. So this is where you go and you find these people and find out what's going on with other technologies, instrumentation, and what the users want. And that's a thing you really want to know. So if you're building something, you have a purpose for it at the end that you're considering. And by the way, I'll add here at the moment, I meant to, there's so many questions that Roland's talk came to me out, because early in my career, I didn't think too far ahead, and built a very, very nice robot. But it was an excellent robot called Tiburon. You can look it up on the web at Mbari. But we killed it. We turned it off. And the reason was the basis that it was built around. I used a chipset through the whole vehicle that was discontinued, and I had never thought about planning for the replacement of that chipset. The way that chipset was integrated into the vehicle made it such that the expense to upgrade it it was just too hot. So we went and bought a commercial vehicle and put Tiburon on the shelf. So, so when you're thinking about these things and you want life in your robots, you also have to think about, you know, I'm using a Beagle bone today, right? That won't be there tomorrow. And then what's going to integrate back to the Beagle bone that you have, because you're going to have a transition between them. And so you really got to think about these things. This is that systems engineering that Tom was talking about. I'm pretty good at it, by the way. It's one of my things I'm noted for. But I screwed up. I didn't think past 25 years. So it's sad because the rest of the vehicle was perfect shape. It was just all the electronics had to be replaced because they couldn't get the parts anymore. Okay, conferences. This is also where you go and meet all the vendors. You might meet some of them at workshops and symposia and so forth, but if you really want to find out what's on the marketplace today, conferences is where you go do that. You meet up with the vendors, and you find out what they're doing today. They're there to try and sell you stuff, of course, but sometimes they're there to also find out what you're doing in their area. So I do a lot of work with optical instruments, and so I talk to a lot of these guys, and they're asking me what I'm doing with laser Raman, with pH control. I've modified, in fact, you can't find it on their website, but Seabird makes a pH meter called an 18. You can get an 18S, right, which is actually a corrected version of their pH sensor that we did for our project. So these things go back and forth. But this is a very good thing for you to do, to find out what's going on. It changes. Sometimes it's weird. It would be like no changes for a couple of years, and all of a sudden it would be a big step. I don't know why that is, but it is. This is where I'll go to the presentations and so forth at the conferences. I do a lot of work with some biologists now, and so forth. So this is where you go find out the science. That's what I work in, is the science field. There's oil and gas guys. There's military people there. And so you go and find out what they're looking for. What do they want solved? What kinds of things do they need out of you as you're moving your career along? So right now, you're trying to get your engineering degree and move on. But when you want to do robotics for a career, this is where you find your customers. And so you want to talk to them. Again, and this is that halfway step. In Oceans, we do this. Not all IEEE conferences will do this. So if you're in the computational robotics people, ICRA, they require that you have a full-up peer-reviewed paper to even be invited to the conference because they have so many people. I prefer to use Oceans, and I keep trying to keep it that way, particularly for younger people who English isn't their first language, as a place where they can get a chance to publish and get a paper that's citable, which is really important, but not so hard on you that you're not going to get in. So it's a great first step, place to go, is the Oceans conferences. And the other opportunity here, by the way, all you have to do is express a desire, and we'll show you how to chair a session. You'll be joined up with somebody who's a little bit older, and they'll get you in on that, get you to review papers, so you get into this, doing things. There's all kinds of avenues for you to get involved and see the world, if you will. Frequently also at conferences, as opposed to other things, this is where you can see a lot of demos. So this is where Roland would show, in fact, we're going to have Oceans here in 2020, Manu? Yeah, 2020, in spring of 2020. And so he might talk to Roland or somebody else and say, we'll have a little bus tour up to, or maybe the swimming pool will have 5 of your robots or something. And that kind of thing goes on. You get to see somebody else's work in live action. So you don't get that at other places. So these are really good for that kind of thing. The student poster competitions, that's the one, I was the chair of Ocean 16 Monterey, and that's all the students getting their awards, and I think 3 of them got, I think top prize that year was $3,000, so it's not bad money. And they got their travel paid for too. So I would encourage you guys to take this and consider this as a path in your career and so forth, and then as student members, it's very inexpensive. But then after that, I would encourage you to become a full member. And the reason is there's a pathway of membership, and then there's these organizational structures, and you can actually start to lead the community, right? There's these tech communities. So I chair the Autonomous Marine Systems now. So we integrate air, surface, and subsurface as opposed to just AUVs. So I'm the chair of that committee. I'm on the advisory committee board. So we were the ones who send the money here. So we vote and actually get you the money every year to come and to do this. And then the executive committee sets the direction of the society and so forth. So there's plenty of ways to join us, and we'd like to see that happen. Back to the student membership. For you guys who don't have student chapters, you can form one. The directions on the website. I think it takes 12 people signed up to create a chapter. And once you do that, you can get seed money. So I've actually got this process started in our, Chile right now. We just had one happen, where was it? Peru, I think it was. There's one in Tunisia. So, you know, the guys from Bangladesh, if you want to have a chapter, there's some steps to do that. You can create a student chapter. We'll give you some seed money to get going that you can put towards your programs and towards your robotics program and so forth. So consider it. And if you want to do that, contact me or Vanu. He'll help you get to me and so forth, and we'll get you going on that. Now, for the guys who are a little bit beyond that, you just recently graduated and you're a full member, we have what's called the Young Professional. And this gets you into the management of OES. In fact, one of the guys is from the Italian competition, the Eurathlon competition. He's joined us. So he'll have 4 conferences that he's completely paid for to come to and be a part of the management as a young professional. So all of his travel, all of his food, airfare, hotel, all the events, tickets, everything's all covered for him. So there's plenty of pathways to come in and be a part of things. The other part of all this is with the membership's benefits, and I won't go into it, there was the link put up earlier, but the main thing for you is that there's a lot of pathways to help your career. There's leadership training, so if you want to become an engineering manager, that kind of thing, they have pathways to do that. You want to be a technical director, they can help you do that. You can cross-pollinate between societies, very easy. So we have a special edition of the journal coming out, and all of the authors are actually not members of OES. They're from the Icarus Society. They're not from OES. They are IEEE, but so you can cross-pollinate publications and so forth. All good things for your career. I'm just trying to make sure I don't get too long here. So now you got 65,000 members plus in 150 countries that are at your disposal. You can informative technical meetings. I should put space in there. You get email address and all that stuff. Registration discounts. But this leadership skills thing, right? This is where you get to swim with the big dogs. So I really encourage you to think about it and consider moving your career forward through something like the chapter, the societies. It's a very strong element. In fact, Tom was talking earlier about all the groups coming together from the competitions. Most of them are not OES, but they're taking advantage of it. Now all those students are taking advantage of the journal publications and the power of IEEE and its connections. So we're pulling the world together under that umbrella, and you guys can be a part of it. So with that, I will close and let you get to the next phase of your life. If you have any questions, couldn't resist it. So if you have any questions, by all means, ask me.